let's bring them back on and kind of have a wrap up panel. So, okay, here we go. So here comes Anne, here comes May, and here comes Geneva.
Hey.
Yay! Oh my goodness. So this has been fun, right? To
Super
talk
fun.
about the
Yeah.
first.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. So I was trying to think of like things to talk about in the panel. And Geneva, when you were showing all of your artwork, it made me think of that super trigger thing going on, which I usually don't talk about, but I'm going to do it. AI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything you guys want to communicate to the readers about AI so that they are aware? Or should we just not even open up that can of worms and just move on?
Look, I've got my beautiful character art up here. I support human artists, and I think
Yeah.
it's really, I work so hard. I know how hard I work on my craft, and people who have the skill to draw, I'm just 1000% in awe, and I will support them any way I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have 2 art degrees, so I'm probably super biased on the scale of where I'm very I have very strong feelings about AI. I have friends.
it's probably not the best thing for me to talk about, to be honest, but I
Anyway.
struggle with it myself. But go ahead. I'll
But
talk about it.
I want to say, like, I've hired also like 3 or 4 different artists to do character art and scene art for me, and I'm really proud that I've been able to do that and work and collaborate with these other artists to help bring my vision, to visual life. And I think that that's something that authors should continue to do. I think a lot of the time people who are capitalizing on AI, it's because of convenience and because of the fact that being an independent author is very expensive, and it's a very convenient, easy way to be able to get this thing that you really want. And I personally think that you get more specialized touches and attention from something that's been made by an artist than you would ever get from a computer. And then you can very proudly be able to display your work without having to worry about any repercussions that come from the ethical arguments against AI. And so personally, I think everybody should be out there paying for artists to do stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think as far as
Yeah.
if I would say anything to readers, it's that, the characters that you see these AI artists do, and I think sometimes it can be really deceiving for the reader. They're looking, they see this character like, oh, this is the character from my favorite book. This looks amazing. And you have to understand that what you're looking at isn't a representation of what like the author is actually writing. Like this is a computer generated, and it's not even computer generated to the point of like where they're creating it themselves. It's pulling in other things, and it's going to be so
Other people.
difficult. Yeah, and it's going to be so difficult for an actual artist to recreate it in that way. And I think that sometimes readers look at that and expect that that's how it's supposed to be now, and they don't really see like the human aspect of it and the human creating the art, and I think that there just needs to be more awareness as far as readers go, because we've seen the drama, from other boxes and from other, books
Yeah.
and things, and I just feel so terrible for these artists who work so hard to bring these characters to life just to be stopped by something like AI. Like it's totally unfair.
Yeah. I get asked all the time. It's one of the reasons why I brought this up is I get asked all the time if I'm going to allow it in the groups. And the thing is I can't tell. Like sometimes you look
Hard.
at something and you think that you can tell, but how do I know? And
It is definitely, the tech is definitely
you know,
getting better. It used to be super obvious. There was a specific
Yeah.
texture and
10
the faces were
10
always a little
fingers
wonky.
or yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so like we had one post in the group where someone thought the cover was AI and went kind of mental on it. And we ended up having to remove the comments because I have no proof that it's AI. And what happens if it's not AI and we
Yeah, I've
remove
had
the
artist friends
post,
who've been jumped
you
on by
know?
people assuming that what they've made was done by AI, and they're like, no, 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 I did this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
You
it's
can't help it.
hard.
I put a polish on my stuff that makes it look like it's AI. Like AI is mimicking
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Doesn't Amazon ask you when you upload if there's any AI involved now?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
Is
do.
that supposed not just the artwork, but also for actually the writing?
Hmm.
What's the deal with
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know it's
Yeah.
just a box you check. I don't know that at this moment anything's actually happening with that. I think it's just something you check when you're uploading.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
so hard to
All
even
right.
tell.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I don't know. So I really don't have a rule about it right now because there's just not. You just how do you know? And then I end up and I don't want to hurt an author. I don't want to take their post away. That's someone saying they love their book and it
Yeah.
end up not being. I mean, that's a huge can of worms. I don't want to open up. The author
Yeah.
messaging me, my post was removed and it's not how long
Especially
ago.
because I think a lot of the time people that are putting it up there are just putting it up there because it's fun, like it's fun to
Yeah,
play
they
with these
just
things and make them
yeah
happen. And there's a thrill of being able, especially if you aren't artistically inclined, you
yeah.
want to be able to make these things, and then the computer gives you the tools to be able to do it. I just think I just don't think that AI is there ethically yet. I think eventually it'll get regulated the way it needs to be, but
Mm.
I just don't think we're there yet.
No.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So how about so you're all KU authors, right? Right?
Hmm.
I'm trying
Mhm.
to
Yep.
yeah. Okay. And you all so why did you choose KU?
Uh, well, for me, it was just easy. It was, familiar. I read the majority of my books in KU. I went wide for a little bit just to kind of test it and see how it did. And I had great success with it. But what brought me back to KU was when there was, you know, there's always controversy over Amazon and royalties and payments and stuff. And a lot of authors were leaving at the time. And I just remember I'm a military spouse. And I remember not having funds for books, not having funds to do anything, not having anything. And, Kindle came out with Kindle Unlimited. And it was like suddenly I had access to really stuff that probably saved my sanity, saved my mental health, saved everything just because I had access to KU.
Right.
And so that was my decision to actually go back to Kindle Unlimited was because of that, because I just thought there so many people who are just like me who rely on something that's inexpensive for them and gives them access to books like that. And I know they have other things now like with Libby and with libraries and
Hoopla.
stuff, and that's
Hmm.
Hoopla that they're coming out, and maybe at some point I'll go back to going wide again and testing that and seeing. But that was really it for me. It was really personal, and I just wanted my books to be accessible to as many people as possible in that way.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that from a
Love
couple
that.
authors where they that for them it was just it's about getting the story out and KU is a great platform for that.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, I think it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing, KU. I mean it's already big now. I mean with the big group that I run with 46,000 members, a lot of them are KU. And then I'll get people join the group and they'll say they're not KU. They'll say, "What's KU?" And then they'll see like recommendations that are all KU, and then they'll go get on KU because like so many people are recommending
It's
KU
true.
books. I read traditional authors too, but I read a lot of KU books. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
there's just an ease to it. You can just
I
download it.
know just from experience as a reader before I even started writing, that when I would go to conventions and stuff, I would pick up the materials from all the authors, but honestly, the only people I ever actually pursued reading were the ones that were on KU because this was a subscription I already had. It was no
Yeah,
additional
you can
cost to
rationalize.
me
Yeah,
out of it. And it's easier to take a chance on somebody you don't know when there's no I mean, I know you pay for the
Right.
subscription, but there's no like in the moment out of pocket cost
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
giving a try. And
Yeah.
if I read a couple pages and I decide I don't like it, then no
just find
harm,
something
no
else.
foul.
Yeah, it's easy.
Um, and
Yeah.
now I'm like I just buy everybody's books. It's a legitimate problem. I also
So
tell myself I bought Kindle Unlimited subscription to save myself money, but then I immediately go buy the actual book for my shelves afterwards. So I'm
I'm
really
so glad
just
I'm not the only
still
one.
spending money.
I was about to ask you, May, about youth KU, and then on top of that, like someone talked about that last week. Like, if you really love an author, it does help if you go and buy
It does.
their ebook. Yeah,
Yeah,
or
and
even their
I
paperback,
know. Yeah, I
or
mean, obviously, I'm an
pre-order.
avid reader as well, and I have KU, and I love it because if I was buying the amount of books that I read, I would not even have a house to live in because it's just too expensive. And so I go and buy the book copies of the ones that I absolutely love. I don't have room for it, but it is what it is. And I just love that for readers to be able to find new authors that they maybe would not have picked up if it wasn't in KU because of a cost issue.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you know, I've had so many people who have found me that way, and I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, KU definitely increased my impulse buy trigger for like, oh, that book looks good. I'm like, oh, KU, download, read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Some of
have
my
a fun
favorite
time.
authors.
Some of your favorite authors are KU? Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
and I discovered them because
Absolutely.
of KU. And I would read
true.
one, and then I would get recommended another book by another author, and I would read that. And I genuinely, yeah, like I said, it definitely saved like sanity, mental health, KU, all the way, 100%.
Do you think, as a reader, I find that, like, I read traditional, I also read KU, right? But as a reader, I find that that the author has a lot more say with KU. Like with the, you know, you don't have a traditional published author telling them how to change certain things or edit certain things. A lot of times I feel like, how do I say this? Like the author can just do exactly what they want to do and take it
Well,
exactly like
that's
you
really
with
just the
Dark Oz,
privilege of
you know?
independently publishing.
Yeah.
You know, when you're
Like you can
independently
just,
publishing, you get that freedom that you might
Yeah.
not get when you're giving some of your like creative license to another company to help produce that.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like
Agreed.
you can kind of go crazy on your triggers, right, Geneva, with your Dark Oz, right? Like you just put your trigger warnings in, you have your
Sky's the
trafficking going
limit.
on, you know, whatever. But if you were traditional published, do you think you would be get away with as much as that you did in your book? Do you think?
I
I
don't
don't know. It's just a good
know.
question. It's a good question.
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think I can kind of sense that sometimes when I pick up so many different books by different, and the writing is just as good, you know, like, you know, the KU writing just as good, you know, it's just, interesting. It's interesting,
I
I
mean,
think. So,
there are traditionally published books in Kindle Unlimited also. Kindle Unlimited is not entirely just independent authors. It's just Kindle Unlimited is a great way for independently published authors to be able to get their material out to a wider audience
right. That's
than
a good clarification.
I'm sorry, not wider, but like to a bigger audience. Publishing
Right.
wide, you can still reach a lot of people, but I think it requires more work on the author's part to be able to get that out there. And I've never gone wide. So Anne, maybe this is a better one for you to comment on, but that was why I decided to go KU.
Yeah. I mean, KU is, as far as like ease of use for an author, it is very easy to just, upload and get everything out there and stuff. And there are more steps to do with Wide. But there are programs now that have made it, a lot easier for anybody that is looking to do and publish Wide to do it. Oh my gosh, why am I? Draft to Digital is one where you can submit through them and they can, do other stuff. FanGrrrl, like there's ways to do it. There are more steps though involved. KU is just one click and done. So that does make it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. That's a good point, Geneva. That's a good clarification that it's not just, you know, straight self-published. There are publishing companies that publish books through KU. Yeah, that is true. That is very true. That's good. Thanks for calling that
Well, like
out.
another thing that, because you mentioned earlier too about the reading with the page reads and supporting authors through KU
Yes.
that way, and
Yep.
then also buying the ebook. This is something
Right.
that I did not realize as a reader who for years had Kindle Unlimited until I was a published author, is that authors will only be paid for reading a page one time. So if I
Right.
read the
That's
book and I
right.
really love it, and then I go back and I read it again, or I really love one chapter and I read it 6 or 7 times, because I'm obsessive, then the author's only being paid for that read the first time I did it. So if you
Right.
really do
Yeah.
love something, you want to support the author and you see yourself reading it more than once, a truly awesome thing to do for them would be to buy the ebook also instead of continuing to read it in Kindle Unlimited. But
Yeah.
that's also not feasible for
Because it's
everybody. But
because a lot of people don't realize it's what, like a half a penny a page,
it's
isn't it? Like a half a
it's
cent
much
a
less than
page.
that.
Much
Isn't it like
less. Yeah.
0.4 or is it 0.37 cents per page?
I think it went
I don't
down.
know.
It
It went down
changes.
last month. I want to say it's like,
Yeah.
it's less than 3 now. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might not get better, right? Because don't they decide the amount based off of a pool? Like Amazon has a certain amount of money that they give to KU, from what I've read on it, and
And then
then
a wizard
they
comes
distribute
in and they go like this with their wand and they say,
Yeah.
that's the rate for this month.
Yeah. I don't think anybody really understands how they do it. I don't think Amazon really even understands how they do it because it's
No,
just,
they have a
yeah,
wizard.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
wizard.
they're-
And I'm
It's a
producing
crazy wizard.
audiobooks right now. And the Audible like scenario for that makes even less sense than the Kindle Unlimited one did. And I'm just like, I don't understand what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
someone's asking, is it better to buy the hard copy or ebook?
I think
it's
both.
hard.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, whatever method
I-
you prefer reading in would be the one
Yeah.
one to buy. I mean, if you're asking which way does an author make the most money, that's really going to depend on the author and what they've put in, because the cost changes depending on things like for me, my ebooks, I don't quite make the same amount. It's almost the same for an ebook versus like a paperback, because I'm making almost the same amount. But part of that is
Yeah.
because I have all those photos, and I refuse to put in something that does not have good resolution. So I've got all, like, every chapter's got a full 2-page spread, and I've got fantasy maps and like lots of stuff. I like pretty books. But like those things make the file size larger, and the larger the file size,
Right.
the more Amazon charges you to send that file to readers. So
Right.
but that's not going to be the case for everybody. So it's not really a
Right.
uniform kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So just one question about the KU page reads. So when I first started researching this, I had read, and I think this is wrong. I had read that it's the first time that you download it. An author somewhere told me that. So it's like the first time you download the book, you get paid per page of what you've read. But if you return the book on the second re-checkout, you wouldn't get paid. And I did more research on that, and I heard from everybody, well, it's a little bit of a mystery how it's done, but that's not true. So it's like the first time you've read the page, it doesn't matter on the checkout. Do you guys have any information on that or knowledge on that?
That's what I knew, but
It's a mystery.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a
Yeah.
mystery.
It really is. Yeah. I was
You
always
know.
taught. I was always told that it's you read that one time, that's it. Like you don't get paid for any other, whether you return it or re-download it again. It's just the first
Just
time
one time per
you read
page.
it.
now
Yeah.
I will say that every time somebody downloads a book and adds it to their library in Kindle Unlimited, to Amazon's algorithm, that counts as a sale. So as far as bestseller ranking, adding something, whether you read it or not, to your Kindle library does still help the author.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So especially on a book's release, if you really want to help a book like have big first day release numbers and stuff like that, even if you don't plan on reading that day, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to read till next week, like still downloading it and adding it to your library on that day can really help rankings, which help the trajectory on Amazon of how well the book does, because then it pushes that
algorithm.
book out to more
Right.
people with the higher
Yeah.
and better it's doing. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
helpful doing that.
So download it on release day is a
Mhm.
to help your favorite
Even
author.
if you can't read it right then. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And then what about ARCs? Do you each of you do ARCs? Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you all have ARC
Yeah.
readers, and how does that
Yeah.
help?
Salacious plug. My ARC application for the third Dark Oz book is currently open on my website. I do e-arcs. Some people, like the traditional publishing companies out there, they do print for ARCs. Indie authors, most of the people I know can't afford to do print as an advanced reader copies, but
Yeah.
I do send
Or
out.
it's very limited.
Yeah, I try to send out as many of the digital ARCs as I can.
Yeah, and but how does someone reading an ARC and rating it before it actually? So you said download, right? Download on the release day. How about if they download before the release? No, they can't because it's an ARC. It's sent through
It's
the
an
email.
arc.
Okay,
Yeah, it
sorry.
doesn't count.
Sorry.
No,
Right.
but
So,
but the
but they do
review
rate
the
it.
reviews
They
help.
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
can rate it, and then coming out of the gate with rankings probably helps the algorithm.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about ratings and the fact that, like a lot of people, a lot of readers will rate on a, obviously the scale 1 to 5, and they think 3 is fine because it's average. It's like, okay, it's good. It's a 3. But Amazon doesn't see it that way, right? Goodreads, it
Right.
doesn't matter. Goodreads is different, right? Amazon is not. You
Yeah.
know?
Amazon doesn't like threes.
Amazon doesn't like
Yeah.
3s, right? And it's because
And
okay, go ahead.
also just like the number of people who are rating and leaving reviews helps too. because the more interaction a book has through the Amazon platform, the more Amazon's algorithm will push that out to other readers. So leaving, even if you can't leave an actual worded review, just rating with the stars when you get to the end of the reading on your e-reader or pulling it up and putting it on there, it really does help. And also it helps give credibility for your book to other people who may have never discovered you before. Like if you pull up a book, it only has 5 ratings, you're not going to maybe take a risk on an author you don't know as much as somebody who's got 2,000 ratings. So it helps
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. All right. We get a lot of questions in the ARC chat. So every Wednesday we do. I don't know if you guys are aware. Geneva, I know you are.
No, I'm like in there
May,
that 30 minutes it comes out, and I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize this in the dark group, because the dark group is, and by the way, it's called dark because of Steam. A lot of people think it's called dark because it's gothic romance. It's not. It's
Right.
contemporary romance that's edgy. Basically, not like Nicholas Sparks. Like this is edgy stuff. More kind of, and so it's mafia, it's rock star, sports romance. All that jazz, right? But humans only, billionaire, whatever, right? So the big group, the urban fantasy group with the 46,000 members, we just hit 46,000, by the way. I'm going to do
It's
a
crazy.
celebration.
That's so
I know,
awesome.
it's insane, man. I just never, wow. Anyways, but every Wednesday we do a community chat for signups for ARCs. And so in the big group, it is buzzing because all these authors drop their forms in there. It's only open for 30 minutes. And then I leave it paused for 48 hours. I invite like active members. I invite conversation starters and new members. And by the time I delete the chat 48 hours later, there are 2,000 people on it. Like I get comments from authors saying, "Oh my gosh, I got 50 people sign up for my ARC. Thank you so much. That's awesome."
It's
So
a
I'm
big
doing the
part of
same.
how I managed to get, I think, ARC readers for the Starsphere, my second fantasy book. That was when I discovered that the ARC thing was happening. And I went from, I only had about 75 people review Sun Serpent to I had 300 people review Starsphere. And a huge part of that was pushing it through your group. So thank you.
Oh yeah, no, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's just cool to see that help, And so I have the same chat. I run them at the same time in the dark group, and not as many authors know about it because the dark group is just 5,000 members and it's a newer group. It's only been around since like September, or August. So anyways, May, Ann, I don't know if you know about it, but if you ever have an ARC and you want to drop it in the chat. It's on Wednesdays, and I try to do it like around lunchtime, and I usually do a notice in the group on that morning. Just because I'm trying to let people know it's there,
Yeah, I've definitely seen it. I feel like I always miss the time, and I'm like, yes, it's there. And then I go in, it's closed.
Australia.
No, missed it again.
It's probably like 2
No.
a.m. at your time or something.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't think about that. Sorry.
No, don't say
Yeah.
sorry. I think
I
it's
definitely
amazing.
think ARC reading is a great way for readers who want to be able to read more content. Like every author, for the most part, has an ARC reading group that they do it. Traditionally published authors have ARC people who can read too. And I think if you just reach out to your favorite authors and say, hey, I would really love to get in on your ARC team. How can I do that? I don't know a single author who's going to turn you away and not at
they
least say,
usually
here's where
won't.
my application is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
or even just on their website. It's
Absolutely.
probably just on their website
Just
somewhere.
a link. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. And then, so the big thing, I get people ask me all the time, and then we'll just wrap up after this, I think. But this has been lovely. It's been great, but we could probably talk forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get people ask me all the time, oh, I got an ARC. Does that mean I'm not really feeling the book? Does that mean I have to leave a review and a rating? Do I have to finish the book? So what are your thoughts on that? I think it's pretty obvious, but go ahead.
Well,
I get asked all the time.
I don't know. I might be different in this. I want your opinion on the book. Like that's why I send the ARC out. Now I don't want you to review it before it's released. Please, please at least wait. If you really genuinely don't like it, or message me and let me know at least. But I do like to hear thoughts, even if they don't like it. I like that feedback. So if you don't want to leave an actual review on the book, like that's fine, but message me and let me know what it is, that you didn't like, or it's, as long as the conversation is respectful, obviously, I don't want somebody messaging me and telling me how much they hate me and what a terrible author I am. That would really suck. But I do like to hear like, their thoughts and opinions. And I, mostly because I look at it as a way for me to, as a chance for me to improve. I look at that as like feedback, but feedback that I can turn into like a good, into a positive way.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. So, but you say like, wait, like I see some authors say, just wait a week until after it releases before you post a non-favorable
just give
review.
us that buffer. Yeah. Give us that buffer. Give us that time and space, that to at least have like a nice, happy serotonin filled release.
Yeah.
And before we
like
see
Amazon,
somebody say,
Yeah,
with the
that makes
algorithm
them say
the
that.
first week.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
They
go
say
ahead,
that
May.
for the algorithm.
For the algorithm. Yeah.
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 Right.
I mean, I personally, not every author's arc rule, like there's a lot of variation, I think, on the rules for arc reading. So when you do sign up, and anybody out there, you definitely want to make sure you read what the expectations of the author you're reading for is. I would love a review. Obviously, that's the reason I'm sending them out, is because I would like reviews, please. But at the same time, I'm not going to police whether or not you put one up there, because I understand that you might not be comfortable leaving a negative review on a public space,
Right.
or,
Yep.
Life happens and maybe you couldn't get to it like you said you could,
exactly.
or, there could be a dozen reasons, or maybe you signed up for it and you started reading and then you realized that there was content in the book that was triggering for you, so you couldn't finish. I don't want you to like finish reading a book that is traumatizing you as you read it, because you don't want to end up being dropped from my team or something.
Right.
Yeah. So for me personally, also giving's my love language. So I'm just like, somebody's like, can I have an arc? I'm like, sure.
Yes.
Aww. Aww. And how about you, May? How do you feel about it?
I feel like I'm the same. I'm a bit more loose with my arcs. Like I'll send them out, but I'm not chasing you saying, how come you haven't left a review or anything like that. I would never do that. And I think for readers, especially with indie authors, we are just a human, and we, it's so easy to reach out and communicate. A lot of authors have PAs as well. And so if you're not enjoying it, I would never be offended if somebody sent me a message saying, hey, I started it and it's just not for me. Because
exactly.
I want you to enjoy reading my books. I don't want someone reading it who's like, I'm really just slogging through this, because sometimes you're not in the mood. I'm a mood reader, so I get it. Sometimes that book is just not right for me in the moment.
Well, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
The ARC team is your last line of defense before it gets out to the whole world too. I'll never cease to be amazed by the fact that I'll have read a book 70,000 times. It'll have gone through three or four rounds of edits, and I paid to have it proofed. And yet somehow
they catch something.
They keep catching, and they keep like, here, you missed this. And apparently, even though I have 2 college degrees, I don't know how to use a comma still. So there's that.
It reminds me, it's so true, because like with the book that I'm writing, it's not even near publishing, but like I have people reading it, and I've had like 15 people read this book. And just recently someone new read it and was like, Rebecca, did you mean to say Charlotte, North Carolina, or Charleston? I was like, oh, I meant to say Charleston. like all these other people read it, and nobody picked up on the fact that I'm talking about the ocean, and Charlotte is nowhere near the ocean, because this one person. And I'm like, oh yeah, oops-a daisy, that was a typo. So it's so true, it's so true.
And I use the feedback from my ARC team to help me pick who I integrate into my beta team, because every time I go into a new book, I try to bring in at least 1 or 2 fresh eyes that haven't beta read from me before. And like how my ARC team gives me feedback usually tells me if the kind of feedback they give is what I would be looking for from a beta reader. So, like that could be, I thrive on the critique process though. So that might not be everybody.
Oh, no, that's good. This is all good feedback, and it's good for the readers to hear, because luckily you guys are accessible, and that's like, readers love that about authors, the ones that they can message, they can talk to, they can see on a live. This is all really, really good stuff. We love that, and it's just so cool that you're open to hearing what they have to say. And, it just says a lot about you as a person and also as an author. So anyways, so yay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on here. Like, seriously, this has been amazing. I know everyone's probably been tickled pink to like meet you and hear about your books and go try your books. So one more time, let's go through and show us your books so people can go download them on KU or not KU. And go first.
I'll go first. Okay. This is mine. That's Pretty When You Lie.
Yeah. And it's a second chance romance, a contemporary romance.
Second chance, contemporary romance. It's got mafia themes. It's got motorcycle gangs. It's got all that stuff in it. Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, May, how about you? I'm just going in order of my screen right now.
Yeah. So The Burnt Heart. So it's an angsty mafia-esque second chance. Why choose?
Ooh.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
You are speaking my love language right there. Okay.
Geneva?
Dark Oz. This is a dark why choose mafia retelling of The Wizard of Oz.
Awesome. Okay. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much again for coming on. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it. So you guys go check out their books.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.